Hi, I'm Jeremy Robinson, and this is the 19th hole. The 19th hole pod. We're back after a winter break because the golf season is about to start. The Masters is looming. So I've got a couple of old pals of mine. We're going to pick the winners, and we're also going to have a little chat about the Grand National, see if we can do a little double for you people out there. So we've got David Lynn. We all know Lenny. He was the first man on our podcast, actually, and he was a multiple winner on the DP World Tour. He played on the PGA Tour. He actually finished tied 46 at the 2013 US Masters, having led by 3 shots after 15 holes in round 1. So welcome, Dave, and thanks for coming back to joining us and
yes.
helping us out with the tips.
Good to be back. Yes, thanks for having me, Jerry.
You playing much golf?
No more than normal at the minute. No, did go to the Sunningdale Foursomes.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks ago, which is if you get the weather, it is a very pleasant walk.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I lost in the second round.
But still, you had a nice couple of days there then.
Yeah, it's it was enjoyable. Nice to catch up with an old pal who I go play with.
Good. And the second guest is my pal and Linny's pal, Josh Apiafi. Josh of Sky Sports Racing and entrepreneur and racing media. Josh?
Yeah, well, this is for a man with no hair, I'll wear a lot of hats, Jerry.
Are you going to give us a little plug about racing media? I see you were launching it again or inviting new people the other day.
The Academy, we launched, so it's the 3rd year the Academy's run. It's probably my proudest thing that I've done in the sport. We've got 13 cadets this year, 13 media partners asked to have joined this year. So, no, it's brilliant. And the great thing is even Linny can apply because the only stipulation is a willingness to learn. And I'm pretty sure we're all still learning.
I don't know about that one. That could rule him out above nothing about racing. Anyway, so Josh, you're golfing at Glen Eagles today, which is rather nice, bit chilly, but the sun's shining in Worcestershire anyway.
Yeah, it is. It was a bit wet yesterday, but it's a lovely day today. The snow-tipped mountains probably aren't the thing you need to see out the window, but you can. But yeah, it's pretty stunning out there.
And Dave, you're coming to us from the tax haven of Hull.
Correct. Yeah. It's a privilege to be here.
So, right, let's start talking about golf. So, the US Masters coming up, starting in a couple of weeks' time. Very, very open, I'd have to say. Obviously, Scheffler heads the market, playing brilliantly this year. I mean, he's won 2 tournaments. He's played 7 events. He's had 6 top 10s. The list goes on, and his golf is fantastic, to be fair. And when he putts well, he seems unbeatable. But have you got any kind of things to go against him, Josh?
Well, I think this is the discussion, isn't it? It's going to be, I know you're Liv's greatest fan, Jerry, or the number 2 greatest fan to Mr. Matt Frith. Matt on Twitter, if anyone wants to follow him. But equally, you've only got to look at last year, and I think a lot of it is really Liv versus the PGA Tour. And you look at last year's result, you had Rahm winning it, now PGA Tour, Mickelson 2nd, PGA Tour. There's Patrick Reed 4th, PGA Tour. So Liv. So the Liv boys can all play Augusta well. And so yes, you've got Scheffler, who looks pretty, like you say, when the flat stick's working, like it looks like it is now, he looks pretty unstoppable. I don't know if anyone saw Padraig Harrington trying to do the Liv sidestep and ended up in doing an Irish jig on Twitter a couple of days ago, which is quite funny to watch. Anyway, he went on and won the Champions Tour at the weekend, so it obviously worked. But no, I don't think you can train that foot movement. I don't know whether Lenny tried. Have you tried the old Irish jig foot movement of Scheffler's yet, mate?
No, I've not. No, funnily enough. But yeah, you kind of look at that swing, don't you? And you just wonder how we so consistent really in with that sort of dancing movement that he's got. But yeah, like Jerry says, he's on fire this year, and yeah, he's going to be a hard man to stop, especially if he puts well. But you hit the nail on the head with this, because I'm sure all the live guys, they probably have this extra little drive to try and obviously beat all the PGA Tour guys. But then you have all the PGA Tour guys who have this extra drive to try and beat the live guys. So yeah, it is fascinating, really. Still, what's going on in the world of golf? I did read there had been some kind of meeting recently, and I don't think there's been any details come out so far, has there, of what went on in that room? But they're trying to certainly tidy it all up, and it needs to, because, funnily enough, when I was down at Sunningdale Foursomes, me and Dan were sat having dinner one night, and we were talking about it, as you do, and we Googled Dustin Johnson's world ranking, and I think it was 300 and something. And this just makes a whole mockery of the world rankings now. And if you're telling me there's, well, let's say it's 300. If you're telling me there's 299 players better than Dustin Johnson, I will eat all of them hats that you put on, Josh.
He's already. This is great because Lindog's already bigging up what my selection's going to be anyway. But I'll come on more onto DJ in a minute. But I also forgot Brooks Koepka. Obviously, he was second last year with Mickelson, with Reed in third. So with Reed in fourth. So they all, again, I also think course-wise, I heard Lee Westwood speak the other day, and he was saying, back in the day when, you had to hit a draw to win round Augusta, because of the length of it now, and we're seeing faders of the ball, and obviously the long drivers now are as much faders of the ball as they were drawers back in your day, Jerry. It properly opens it up. You've just got to be a long slugging hitter, basically. You've got to be long to win, and it doesn't matter whether you fade it or draw it. Would you guys agree with that?
I would agree with that. Totally agree with that. I mean, you look at that; they all fade the ball now. McIlroy draws it, but even he's hitting a lot of fades off the tee. So I couldn't agree more with that. I just want to go back and ask Dave a question, though. Just going back to the Scotty Scheffler thing, I agree. One, it's unbelievable how he's so consistent. But do you think he's not taking anything away from him? The top players on the PGA Tour, like Spieth, Thomas, Burns, Finau, like last week at Valspar, they all missed the cut. They're not playing that well. Do you think because they're not playing well, McIlroy's not playing his best, and the live players such as Rahm and that are not obviously playing these tournaments, is it making it easier for Scheffler to win these tournaments, do you think, or not? Is he standing there thinking, I can beat all these guys, no worries?
I think, well, he got to world number one anyway, didn't he, when some of those guys, when Ram was certainly around.
Yeah.
Well, it's the scores he's shooting, though, isn't it? He's still, he's putting the numbers in. And I dare say, I mean, you've got to think, though, haven't you? Still, Scheffler must think, okay, yeah, I'm winning these tournaments. I am where I am. What happens if you Ram and you Johnson and you Koepka were around? Would I be,
That's the point I'm making. Is it a little bit easier for him, do you think?
Interestingly, I did have a look at his points average in the world rankings, which still, it doesn't matter who's in the, well, no, it does, to be honest. Yeah. He's averaging 12 points something. I think he's 3 points in front of McIlroy, which is quite a gap, really, isn't it? When you understand the world ranking points, you do realise that 3 points is quite a gap, which, I mean, then takes us back to the Tiger Woods in his prime when the gap was over 10, wasn't it?
Yeah, the gap was bigger between first and third than it was between third and 1,000.
Yeah, which certainly for me, understanding the system and everything, just cements even more how good Tiger Woods was at that time.
No, I agree. So,
I was just going to add to what Josh was saying, what both you said about length around Augusta. Obviously, having played in a couple of Masters, yes, length helps, and it helps because when you're going into those greens, and the way I always describe it to people when they ask me, it's going into a green, but it's 4 greens, because you do have to be very precise in hitting it into certain areas of the green, because you can leave yourself in absolute no man's land, 3-4 putt territory. So if you can bomb it further off the tee and get a shorter iron in your hand, that's where it's paramount, really. I know when I really struggled on a few holes around there, going in with long clubs, but I did manage to have every dog has its day. I had my day on the first round when I played there and got it to. Well, I had a putt on 16 to go 6 under, but obviously it didn't last. You get found out in the end, don't you? But
does that rule out someone like Ludwig Aberg then, or however they want to pronounce his name? When you go into your class, but experience counts for a hell of a lot because of those greens. Or do you think a good caddy will sort him out?
Well, you know what? You've seen it on TV that often. I mean, it took me a lifetime to get there, and when I got there, in your own head, you've already built up a memory bank of stuff. But yeah, there's nothing like getting on there and experiencing it for yourself. But sometimes having not been there and being a bit naive to certain things can make you play more aggressive.
Yeah.
So I certainly think you can win it first time out.
I think, Josh,
sure.
I mean, just looking at it from afar, these guys have come out of college in America now. They're so good that I don't think they're worried about, can I win the Masters first time out? If they play their very best golf, I think they can. I mean, you look at Aberg last year, straight in the Ryder Cup was a star. Nick Dunlap this year already won on the PGA Tour as an amateur. So it's happening more and more. Back in the day, Mickelson won as an amateur. Verplank did. I think Mickelson did. Verplank certainly did. He beat Jim Thorpe in a playoff. But it was so extraordinary then. But now it seems like it could happen any week.
No, absolutely. And then what's that? Because of the college system?
I think it is the college system. I think all the coaching and everything's so much more advanced now. And these young guys, they just believe they can win as well. They are very, very good players. And it's like when someone turned pro years ago, Lynn, if you finished top 50 in the order of merit, you had a hell of a season, hadn't you?
Yeah. Well, yeah, you still are. You're still having to play some golf, aren't you? But I think me and you, didn't we, spoke on the phone the other day, and when I was down at Sunningdale, played, I can't even remember his name, but I played a guy and a girl, both pros, in the second round. And I was impressed with the pair of them, but in particular the guy, he just looked like a very strong player. And I said to Jerry, probably, I mean, if he watches this, my only thing I thought was he looked a little bit too intense, really. But his game just looked great to me. And then speaking to him, and he's struggling to get starts up in Scotland. He's playing a little bit on the Clutch Tour. And it kind of then took me back, and I thought, geez, how good do you have to actually be to get out there? But there is that X factor for sure.
Yeah.
And everybody's different what their X factor is going to be, really, and you've got to find it somehow.
Yeah. Well, he's going to be over the moon. You can't remember his name.
That's right. If he's watching, he's going to feel really confident about things. If you are watching, whoever you are, just remember that Dave Lynn's memory is not very good, so please excuse him.
Correct. I'm getting on a bit now.
Yeah. Anyway, so moving on. So from the PGA Tour side of it, looking at the FedEx at the moment, obviously Scheffler's well ahead. Number 2, Wyndham Clark. I'm not obsessed with Wyndham Clark. I don't, I'm not a great fan of his. He could win the Masters, but I wouldn't fancy him to win it.
Well, Wyndham's got one thing that Rory needs, in my opinion. Julia Ellen, or whatever her name is, in terms of a sports psychologist. I think she's completely changed. It was really interesting watching the first swing.
Yeah.
He obviously has ridiculous talent, but if you don't believe you can do it, then you're never going to do it, as you guys full well know. So it's something, I know you're looking at Wyndham Clark, but equally part of his armoury is something that I believe Rory McIlroy, the best player on the planet by far, talent-wise. But what is he lacking? And he's lacking mental strength for me.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. So that's my view on him. But the guy who's third on the FedEx list actually is one who I think, and I wouldn't call him an outsider, but he's 22-1, is Matsuyama. He's won at the Masters before. He's played well this year, 12th and 6th in his last 2 events. He won the Genesis. I personally think Matsuyama at 22-1 is a good bet.
Well, that's him knacking. Yeah. He's got the penalty of the Jerry tip carried in his bag. A fit Matsuyama is amazing, and obviously plays that course. Those images of his caddy after he won will live long in the memory of being so respectful of what they'd achieved, but secondly of the place and the environment and all that kind of stuff. So, but the other thing with Matsuyama though is injury. He is a bit of a crook in terms of his back. He's had proper problems there. He's had problems with his wrist. He's stopped waiting for 10 minutes.
He's not got a bird at the minute.
Wing. Sorry, mate.
Has he not got a bird at the minute then?
Don't know, mate. You tell me. My wrists are fine. But equally, he has stopped at the top. He's the whole wait 5 minutes at the top of the swing has actually come down quite a lot. It's not as pronounced as it once was, but I can see why you like him, Jerry. I can just never get him on the right week, to be honest with you. He's an amazing talent, but he is a bit in and out. He doesn't have like a real run of consistency. Like you do with Scheffler, and just finishing on Scheffler, you know, he has a bad round and he shoots 3 under, 4 under on, you know, against everybody else. Whereas we've got others out there, and Matsuyama is a classic case. He can throw in a bad round, and that's one thing you obviously, if you're not on form on Augusta, as we all know, it'll absolutely eat you, and you could be firing in a well plus over round.
So that's he's one of mine. But moving on to one of the players you said as well on the FedEx list, he's 61st on the FedEx. He's played 5 tournaments this year. 19th is his best. Linny, you know him. You played with him. Rory McIlroy. Where does he stand at the moment? You know, his mates down in Jupiter seem to have ditched him, and you know the PGA Tour have shafted him. His golf isn't as good. I know he won in Dubai at the beginning of the year. He loves it in Dubai, but there's so many rumours about him going to live for billions and billions. And where do you think he stands with his golf and everything at the moment?
I mean, he is an obvious talent, isn't he? Augusta brings something far different to him than he experiences the rest of the year. And he is still, and I know I say this tentatively, he's still not cemented. If you were to name your top 10 golfers ever, for me, Rory's still not on that list as good as he is. But if he wins the Masters, he kind of joins that list. And he knows the importance of winning the Masters. But, I mean, was it last year where he was up there for a bit and then he dropped out and he freewheeled the last day? Was that last year or the year before? I can't remember.
He does that a lot.
And he just shot an incredible, easy...
Oh, yeah.
60 whatever.
Yeah, he held out the bunker on the last hole, didn't he?
Yeah.
2 years ago.
Was it? Well, I mean, it's easy to sit here and say this, but he needs to throw caution to the wind almost and go out and play Rory McIlroy free and easy, doesn't he? But you're talking about legacy for him to winning it, aren't you? So it's difficult. He has his demons. Hopefully he's learning every year he goes back in how to deal with it. Because I had heard he's grown a bit of animosity towards the Masters because of the importance of winning it. But for me, it should be the easiest one for him to win as well, because of his length. But then again, a lot of people have caught up lengthwise now. But he's a massive talent, isn't he? And you can't write him off. No.
Do you think it's the flats? My problem with Rory is one is mentally, as Linny's talked about, but also flat stick. He's streaky. Once he gets going, he keeps chopping and changing putter. I can't have him on the mental front more than the putting front, to be honest with you. I think there are demons when he walks down Magnolia Drive of that one round when he was leading, and just you could see it. It was like he'd been in a freaking car accident, for want of a better phrase. He's properly. It's not nervous, is it? It's just it's fear, I think, more not nerves, and it's and with all that pressure that's been built up, that he's going to get the full set of majors and all this kind of stuff and get on Lily's top 10 list. I mean, that's all he's ever wanted to do.
I mean, the thing is with Augusta, if you are struggling with the flat stick, it's certainly highlighted around that place. But the beauty, if you are putting well, it is an absolute pleasure to put from 15 feet and in. It is like putting on a snooker table, and it's beautiful. But that putting, as we all know, is something that can come in a flash. It can go in a flash. It's a confidence thing. So you've just got to hope that he manages to find a bit of streak in it. He finds some magic, and he needs to replicate for me how he played that final day 2 years ago. And I mean, it's huge for him, though, isn't it? Everybody knows it. I mean, the media attention he must get when he goes because of what's at stake. Yeah.
Josh, he's 10-1 with Sky Bet. You don't see much value there at 10-1.
Absolutely no value at 10-1 in Rory McIlroy there. I'd rather back him, at 2-1 when he's in the top three. On the final day going out, sort of thing. You know what I mean? You're a lot better there. You sort of know where you are with it, because you don't know what Rory's going to turn up. He could whip it round there and shoot 14 under and win by 5. He's got that ability, and everyone knows he's got that ability, including himself, which is why it's so frustrating.
Do you think he looks at it and thinks, how many of these have I got left? I mean, how many has he got left as a major contender?
He's starting to talk a little bit as though he's not coming to the end of the career, but the clock is ticking a bit. And I just think with the Masters, he's got a lot. He must have some not bad thoughts, but in his memory bank, he's got some bad shots, as you rightly say, Josh, like the tee shot on 10 when he was leading, when he was a lot younger. I know it's a long time ago, but in my little world, when I go to a golf course and I see a hole, I think, Christ, I've made a mess of this one in the past. So I don't care who you are. And I think what you say, Josh, is about, with Wyndham Clark, it's easy for us to say, looking from the outside in, but maybe Rory does need it. I'm saying that he's had Bob Rotella, supposedly the greatest sports psychologist ever. And that hasn't done the trick for him either. But I think this year, I think there's no value at 10-1, but he is coming into the tournament a little bit more under the radar than usual because his form is poor. And
he's not going to be under the radar, Jerry. He's the biggest name in golf, basically. So he'll have more press attention than Scotty Scheffler.
Yeah, and going back to the putting, as we were just saying with Scheffler, you're saying how the putting can come and go so quickly. Scheffler's putting goes at Augusta, as you rightly say, Lynn. He ain't winning it, is he?
Well, no one's it.
No. You've got to put well at Augusta.
So moving on to another one who is up there in the market, but again is showing he's 20-1, is Victor Hovland. He's 77th on the FedEx ranking this year, tied 19th is his best event, and he's gone off the radar as well. I mean, again, fantastic player, came onto the scene like a whirlwind. Talk about going to live and that. I wonder where he is with his golf at the moment.
Got a new coach through the winter, but I can't have him this year. I mean, why, when you had such a fantastic season, you've won on both tours, you've played a great Ryder Cup, and then you go and change your swing, and with a new coach, it's just like, and he just got to that stage as a better on golf. I always worried about him because he could always throw an 8 in. He had ridiculous talent, but you were like, he just went pin hunting everywhere. It was great, the confidence of youth. But as a punter, you're like middle of the green, you're free clear or whatever it is. But he wouldn't go pin hunting. And that's where he could have come unstuck. And then he matured into a fantastic winning machine. He's absolutely ripped. It hits it miles. And then he's gone and changed coach. And he hasn't, whether this is a build-up with a new swing or he had an injury that he's trying to protect, no one knows. But if you're looking for form, he is not going to win the Masters. You can bring me back on here straight afterwards, mate, that Victor Hovland does not win the Masters.
I totally agree with you. I mean, he made the weakest part of his game almost into the strongest part. He became a really good chipper, which was his weakest part. And then, as you say, he's gone and changed coaches. But Linny, as we know, in the past, people have got to a certain stage in golf to a very high level, much higher level than I have, and they've gone and changed coaches and gone back.
Yeah.
You know, it's amazing how people do it, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm the worst person to ask though about coaches, aren't I? Because I never had one.
Yeah, I know.
But interesting bit of inside info, believe it or not. So there's a family round here, and his son is a fitness coach and has worked with Fitzpatrick now for a number of years, and he's with Hovland. And I bumped into his father in the supermarket at the end of last year, and he was saying that Hovland has turned round to them all, to his team, and gone, great year last year. Next year, we are going world number one. So, I mean, certainly in terms of where he's wanting to shoot for and drive and ambition, I mean, that's all there. But yeah, changing your coach. I mean, you would have thought that you've got to where you've got and you've had the year you've had. Little bit of fine tuning, maybe look at your data, which they all look at these days. You know, is my chipping or my putting from blah, blah, but to go like, yeah, to bring somebody new into the fray who comes with different ideas that necessarily you don't kind of get on with. Yeah, strange decision, but his ambition, you can't fault him really if he's, yeah.
And usually with that, it's interesting when you get a new manager of a football team, they go and win the next 2 or 3 because there's something new they're trying and there's a bit of confidence, and you see this sort of bounce effect. And
it's an arousal jag.
Yeah.
That's the terminology, because having worked with psychologists myself, believe it or not, the first hour I spent with him, he was telling me, he said, you know, you're probably going to go on and have quite a good week this week. And it's this arousal jag. You're excited with the new thing you're doing, working with me, blah, blah, blah. And what happened? I went and had a decent week, and I'm like, yeah, he's right, isn't he? And I then began to, it's like when you change your putting grip. On the putting green, you hold a couple of 6-footers and you're like, well, this is it. It's an arousal jag, but they don't last.
That's
so
it.
A coach you want to be working with, going through all, you want your coach to know your deepest inner thoughts so that you can read your mind at certain points, and he knows how to play you, doesn't he?
Lynn is psychologist. I'm thinking 2 things popped in my head then. First off was Goodwill Hunting, and the second one was One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Where is that bloke now? Is he? Did you completely fry him?
Oh yeah, he did need a psychologist after I'd finished with him.
he met his match when he met Lynn.
I was giving him my deepest, darkest thoughts.
No, we don't want to go down that route, Linny. We really don't. So, moving on from the PGA Tour to the tour that I like watching, the Live Tour, talking about the players there with no...
Right, Jerry, before we get there, does someone from Live or someone from the PGA Tour win the Masters? You do have to name who it is.
Well, I'm going to tell you who I think's going to win the Masters. He is a Live player.
Yeah, I'm on a Live player. We're probably
same here. We've all got Live.
We are, aren't we?
The one that I like, and he's a great golfer, and he comes across as a really nice guy, and he has improved in the last year. Not he was brilliant before. Is Joachim Neiman. Joachim Neiman wins the Australian Open last year. He's won on the Live Tour. He finished 4th in Dubai. And the bizarre thing is, he's actually on the DP World Tour Order of Merit. I can't get my head around it. They ban players, but Neiman can play because he's never been a member of the European Tour before. But that's beside the point. But Neiman, to me, at 25-1, I think he's value for money. He's a great player. He's a great putter. He's put on 15 yards over the winter, talking about changing things. And to me, he's the form player in the world, bar outside of Scheffler.
If he played well last year, I think he was nearly like he wasn't the last group or the last but one group, but then he had a bit of a shocking final round. So for me, he's one that if he's 3 or 4 back, you're right. But he's a follower and sort of puts his head on the line, as they say in horse racing, rather than leading from the front. I don't think he's a great front runner.
No, I mean if you look at his record, say he won in Australia, 4th at DP Dubai, I know people say Liv's not that good, but he's first, 30th, fourth, and fourth this year in the 4 events. So his form is pretty good, and I think he'll go close.
Yeah, I can't argue with you, but
Yeah.
I'd be more looking towards Koepka.
Well, I mean,
I think he's got extra fire in his belly to knock this one off after what happened last year. And I mean, he turns up at the majors and he seems to have the Jack Nicklaus mentality at majors where they're the easiest things to win because everybody else just buckles around you. He uses that. He loves it, doesn't he? He loves it.
I mean, going back to the Netflix series, in Netflix series 1, you wouldn't have said that because he seemed to have lost his mojo, but he's got it back now. And as you say, Lynn, he's a player for the majors. And when he rocks up there, and he freely has said it before, he knows he's going to beat 75% of the field if he's playing well before he even starts.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great mentality to be in that one.
He doesn't lack confidence. He doesn't lack a good-looking wife or a very big house. If you look at in Series 1, the first swing, and it's like, why are you so depressed, mate? There's a multi-millionaire, good-looking wife, massive house, major winner. But there you go. But no, there are not a lot of weaknesses there. He's obviously had his injury problems. Did he ever play on the DP European Tour with you, Dave? Because he was there beforehand, and he looks completely different. It's like he went to them in the Arnold Schwarzenegger clinic.
Do you know what? I remember him and who's the other guy? Peter
Uline.
Yes, both of them were inseparable. They were young lads starting out, and they both came to European Tour, and they loved a little bit of a party as well. They did enjoy themselves, and I kind of missed it a bit because I'd gone. That was when I went stateside a bit, but when I came back, I remember the lads telling me a couple of stories about them and whatnot, and I was in the company a little bit, not a lot, but I mean, they've both of them have live, aren't they? Yeah.
Well, I mean, Koepka won 3. He played on the. Well, they both played on the Challenge Tour to start with, and Koepka won 3 times on the Challenge Tour in about the first 6 events he played.
Right. Yeah.
Fair play to him coming over. I mean, he came over with Uline, as you rightly say, and they got invites probably through Uline's dad helped a little bit at the time, running tightest foot dry worldwide. But
Koepka, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Koepka certainly showed his class from day one. So you're right on that one, and you can't rule him out. He's a great player. I love watching him play, and as Josh said, his pad's not bad either.
Well, I'll make up the hat trick. So my selection this year is DJ. 33-1 he is. I think that's a massive price. Previous world number 1, Masters winner in 2020. Won the US Open 2016. He won 15 of 16 seasons on the PGA Tour and won in Las Vegas last month. I mean, this guy, he's that unintelligent. He just doesn't give a monkeys. He just walks and nothing seems to affect him. He's
not in the top 300 in the world, Josh.
I know. Brilliant.
So, I mean, what chance has he got?
I know. Those world rankings are such a form guide, aren't they? I mean, it's laughable now, but focusing back on DJ, he had basically it wasn't his hometown, but all his family were there. There was enough pressure on that front. He's gone to live, doesn't care. I mean, he's like, talk about mental strength. He can play Augusta with his eyes closed. His putting's obviously working with his winning on live, and taking live form. We've got to take all we can take is from last year. And they filled 4 of the top 5 places were live players last year. So I'm comfortable enough when people say they haven't had tournament, conditions and all this kind of stuff. Doesn't seem to bother those boys.
No, I mean, they're playing again next week in Miami, and I'm sure all those guys who are playing in the Masters, they will have upped their practice and everything now, and they'll want to play well in Miami heading into...
Do you think they'll have chosen a course, Jerry, that the stint will be the same as Augusta, or they'll try and get a course that's close? Because Greg Norman, it's run by properly run by golfers, not by a wannabe golfer in Jay. So they're probably going to choose a course that's as a good warm up into Augusta.
Well, I think they're playing at Trump's course, Doral, but I think they'll certainly try and get the greens as quick as possible to help these guys, because there's a bunch of them who can play. I mean, Cameron Smith's showing a bit of form again now. I think talk about putting, man, he is the best putter. If he straight drives it half decently, he's got a chance. There's obviously DeChambeau, another one who's gone to live, who's a great player. Never won on the PGA Tour before. Adrian Marron.
He's got demons though, and because he turned up and said he's just going to bash this round. And he called it a par 68.
68, yeah, and he shot about 80, didn't he?
So that's him. Game over. Every time he walks through, there'll be people giving it in the crowd and all this kind of stuff. I think he'll be psyched out of it.
What as a lovely each way, providing he gets an invite? What can we get Anthony Kim at?
He needs a belt.
He's still working through his insurance payoff, isn't he?
I watched a bit of him. I was interested to see how he did, because obviously years gone by. I mean, he was some player. He was amazing, but
he was.
He looks like. Well, I think
looks like Sloth out the Goonies now, doesn't he?
I think it's a good thing he's come to live, really. I think he's come there not just for the golf, but to get off what he was doing before. He looks like he's been battered, and I don't know what he's been up to, but I think any kind of golf's doing him good.
I'll never forget when he took Sergio apart in the singles in the Ryder Cup, didn't he? It was just, I don't think it took Sergio about 3 years to recover.
I mean, he was brilliant. He was cocky, and he wore the big belt buckles and everything. But he was good for the game of golf.
There was fantastic stories knocking around about him. That apparently he walked up to somebody somewhere on a putting green and went, "Hey, what's like West Palm Beach like? I've just bought a house there for 15 million. I've not even been there." And apparently he had a guy who used to carry his mobile phone. Another guy used to carry his wallet. I mean, these were the stories that were going around.
To be fair to him, Lynn, as Josh said, when he took Garcia, he was some player, wasn't he?
Oh, he was, yeah. And I mean, even I kind of tuned into his scores to see.
Yeah.
Because, to be fair, he's been finished about 9 years, isn't he? Kind of
12 years.
Well, 12 years.
Yeah.
And it kind of just shows you just how rusty he is. But I do think he could get it back.
Oh yeah, well he shot 65 in the last round in Hong Kong.
Yeah. So
it shows he's coming back. So, but yeah, I don't think he's going to win the Masters. I think he'd have to wear a belt and tuck his shirt in, which I would respect to Augusta. But anyway,
patrons won't be happy. Now we've been talking. There's only one, basically, GB&I player that we've talked about so far, and that's Rory. So there's got to. What else is out there, Jerry? Mr. Fitzpatrick,
Shane Lowry,
Shaney, yeah.
Fantastic short game.
Shane doesn't win enough for me. He gets himself into positions, but yes, he hasn't won since the Open, has he?
No. I outside of Rory, Josh, to be honest, I mean Fitzpatrick, brilliant when he won the US Open, but I don't think the GB&I kind of I don't think it's got the Willie Mullins effect going to Augusta. Let's put it that way. I don't think they're going to dominate GB&I.
I take it back. Actually, we forgot the mid-American accented Ludwig.
Well,
we could claim him for Europe as well.
Claim it. Has he got someone in Hull as well?
And I was going to ask. No inside info on him.
Hey, I was going to ask you actually. I forgot to ask when you were saying the story, just very briefly about Hovland's fitness guy's dad. When you met him in the supermarket, were you talking prices there as well?
What of milk?
What we were buying, or of Hovland?
So, which supermarket was it? And I might add there are other supermarkets in the UK. Are you mentioning it?
It might begin with a W.
Right, there we go then. All right. There are other supermarkets, I might add, which begin with other letters. Right, so here we go. So we're going to, first of all, any outsiders? I've got one outsider at 50 to 1, Minwoo Lee.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've backed him a few times this year. He's had a couple of top tens, hits the ball an absolute country mile. There's nothing, he could hide behind a toothpick. There's nothing of him compared to the old ripped up Brookses and Brysons and stuff like that. Whether he's there yet in terms of winning a first major, I don't know. And I think the Masters is one where you need to have been up there in other majors to sort of have the confidence to go. It is seen as much as we love to say the Open is the number one. When it comes to those players, I think the Masters, because it's played at the same course every year, has that sort of special element to it, and the Champions Dinner and everything that goes with it. So I can't. I can see him being. I can definitely see him getting the top 10. He's got the ability to do it. He's got the putting ability to do it. But I can't see him as a winner. But of course, you can back first 10 as well with a lot of these betting sites now. Yeah. First 10 and first 12 are available.
Yeah, because the other one is a big price who's done it before and everything. Is playing quite well this year, as well as Sergio Garcia at 125 to 1. He'd be one I think at each way price, top 6 each way, and probably less.
What's where would Patrick Reed be on the on that list?
He'd be around Garcia's price, I would have thought, Josh.
Yeah, see, he's not. He could be. He could do it, couldn't he? He's pops up, doesn't he, every now and then, and one of those players. Once he kind of gets in, he stays in, doesn't he?
Can you find him, Josh?
Hold the line, caller. I've got all my own bets up here at the moment, so I need to get out of that first. But yeah, keep talking, lads.
Who else do we think then, Jerry?
Well, those are my outsiders. I mean,
what about seniors? Mickelson was second last year. You know, Langley used to wing it round and everyone would write him off. Him and F plays well around there. Padraig Harrington's just won last weekend.
I just think Mickelson was amazing last year. I think his golf, and he could do it again. He came from nowhere last year to do it. Masters inspires him, or Augusta does. I think his days
previous, had he?
Yeah, I think his days have gone, Josh. I do believe. I don't think he can compete anymore. What's Patrick
Reed? 80 to 1.
Yeah, you see, that's another good outsider in my opinion. Right, so here we go.
Fleetwood. There's one. Fleetwood. You've got to mention Fleetwood.
Yeah. He's one again, but I can't see him winning the Masters.
What, because of his style of game, or just the form that he's in?
I don't know. He's a fantastic player and he's incredibly consistent. Again, each way, I think he could easily finish top 4 or 5. But whether he can just win, I'd like to see him win a major, because I think he's a great player and I like watching him. He seems to be a really good guy and everything. And if anyone deserves to win a major, I'd put him in up the list. I think he does. He's good for the game of golf.
Yeah, nice kid.
Last one for me that we, whilst we're on the Live Love Fest, and won this year as well. Previous major winner, of course, is Louis Oosthuizen.
Louis Oosthuizen is he in the Masters?
Well, he's 80 to 1. I presume he is.
It's dead money if he isn't.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, Josh.
He's making more money at Bet365 if it's a non-runner.
I think he's a non-runner. I might be wrong. Yeah, I can't.
Really?
Yeah. He's never.
Why is he a non-runner, Jerry?
Because
what would be his exemption? Yeah.
How would he be? He won the US.
Was he top 10 last year?
He'd have to have been top 10 or top 12. It is. When he won the Open. That's further than 5 years back. I think, Josh, he might be a non-runner.
All right. Well.
So anyway, but he does. I mean, yeah, he deserves to be in it. Again, world ranking points. It goes back to it. The way he plays the game, he'd be in the top 50 in the world ranking, in my opinion. No bother at all. So he's one that's lost out. As a Taylor Gooch isn't in it as well. He's another one. He's a good player. Should be in the Masters.
Well, Taylor Gooch is in the betting as well, so you may well be right.
I don't think and Neiman got a special exemption, didn't he? They invited him about a month ago. He wouldn't have been in it otherwise. So So Josh, give me a winner and a outsider for an each way bet.
My winner is DJ. I don't know what. Look, I've got a thumb come up on my screen, Jerry. I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah,
I'll try the middle finger in a minute. The DJ is my man, 33 to 1. pretty confident on that. He's playing well. Previous winner, I think 30. I think if I was pricing it, I'd have had DJ at around 20. So that's why I'm going for a bit of value.
Lenny?
I'm with Kopka.
There we go.
And then me outsider would be Patrick Reed.
There we go. Outsider for you, Josh?
I'd love to see, and it's only because I've platonically fallen in love with Tom Kim. I just think he's brilliant. Parking up at Augusta in the champion spot last year on the first wing was probably one of the funniest things I'd seen. He can't stop eating. I mean, he's got the ability. He's not been playing that well this year, but he's got the mental strength to become a major winner.
Yeah, without a doubt, I agree with you on that. I'd say he's good for the game of golf as well.
Yeah.
And he's a great player. I'm sticking with Joachim Niemann. I think he's going to. He's my tip to win it, and I am going with Minwoo Lee as an outsider and each way bet. So Niemann and Minwoo Lee. So that's the Masters kind of covered. Just before we move on to a bit of racing, Josh, Linny, your thoughts on golf, the way it's going? I mean, we sat here, you were on in 2022. I looked it back in March and we were talking about Liv, and a year ago, you'd never have said that, you know, John Rahm would be at Liv, and you look at the leaderboards of the Liv events against PGA Tour events, and nobody really in their right mind can argue that the Liv events are good quality events now. There's some quality golfers playing in them.
Well, yeah, that's undeniable. And the only bits of the Liv I see are on snippets on social media. It's certainly their vibe, their atmosphere they've gone for is different. And yeah, to sit here now, a couple of years on, you kind of wonder. I mean, certainly for me, looking at golf, it needs to unite somehow. But for Liv, with what they've got now and probably their vision, where they're going, more players, do they need to unite? Which is quite a scary comment to make. Only time will tell. It would have been nice to have been a fly on the wall in that meeting recently that took place. But it seems like that guy, and I don't know his name, who they wanted in the room, who is in charge of the public investment fund. Yassir is chairman. It seems like he is basically holding the future of golf in his own, and who knows what he thinks. And you know, he's not, he won't be a like us or what, you know, he can go off on a tangent, do what he wants, can't he? And they've got the money behind him to, you know, but things have to start somewhere. And who's to say in 100 years' time they're playing events on the Live Tour? It's now got a history. I mean, things have to start somewhere. Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And I think, you know, you're looking at the people who are, as you rightly say, I think you're right that he holds the cards. You know, Pelly's jumped ship going back to Canada, so he's one of the people who've messed it up, in my opinion. Gone. Monahan, I don't know how he's still running the PGA Tour. He thinks he's the most powerful man in golf, but I would agree with you, Linny. I think there's the business now of building the Asian Tour, isn't there? Which absolutely, I mean, the Asian Tour, a fantastic place to play golf, and they're on about branching out, obviously worldwide, which means they're building, in essence, another proper big tour, aren't they? Yeah. Pretty scary stuff. But yeah, I mean, to like touching back on Dustin Johnson outside the top 300 in the world, I mean, you name me 300 golfers better than him. I mean, it just, whoever's in charge of them official world rankings, they've got to be, somebody's got to be saying, look, lads, this is wrong. What are we going to do? Well, Liv have withdrawn their application now for world ranking points. They've said we're not bothering it anymore. They were dead keen to begin with, and now they realise it's so fast. You wonder what kind of statement is behind that, really, don't you? Yeah. So, but anyway, and what do you think, Josh? Being a golf fan, what do you think? I mean, to me, it's going a bit like tennis, where the majors become the great events now, and the rest of them are just like week in, week out. There seems to be so much golf going on now. But aren't the majors going to be amazing? So I'm always Mr. Positive, and that now you can dip into golf and be a fan 4 times a year,
with those majors, they're going to be massive. It's where East meets West, Live meets PGA Tour. There's all the stories that come of it, rather than week in, week out. And it gets a bit boring, lads, to be honest with you. You know, it's the same stuff, especially on the PGA Tour. But now, all I'm going to focus on are those big key events. We'll all know when they are in the diary. There'll be great news stories. The media will massively get behind them. So it'll sort itself out. I don't know which way it'll sort itself out. Al Moynihan's still got a job. Is unbelievable. You can see, watching that full swing, how Rory said he's one of his best mates, and at the end of the series, he certainly wasn't. Yeah. But equally, major-wise now, put it in the diary, there's going to be, 16 amazing days of golf that you're going to be glued in front of your sofa. Get a new sofa is what my advice would be.
They say the golf season starts at the Masters, and the way the majors are now, one a month for the next 4 months, and the summer of sport coming up. Golf is going to be great for the next 4 months. It's going to be high on the agenda. Boom, boom, boom. 4 months in a row, 4 majors. I think it's going to be brilliant.
Golf has actually put a lot towards. An Olympic gold medal, again, a bit like Ryder Cup. It means a hell of a lot to them, even though they're not getting paid. But they get paid enough every other week, so they can have a week off on that.
Patrick Cantlay won't be playing at the Olympics, but anyway, that's beside the point. So we're moving on to Linny's hot topic now, where he really does know his stuff. Talk about a bit of horse racing before we finish. Josh, just your thoughts.
Fillies.
Yeah, just your thoughts on Cheltenham. Obviously, you're kind enough to invite me there, and I had a great day. It seemed a lot quieter. The powers that be in, talk about the powers that be in golf, the powers that be in horse racing have probably got to look at it, really. I mean, Cheltenham, the numbers were down dramatically.
They were, and last year there was the excuse of a train strike was used why there were 40,000 down, and there were 10,000 down on last year, so 50,000 over a 2-year period. Now, you did have the booster of COVID, where everyone just wanted to spend money and go somewhere, because we all became very mortal throughout. But equally, British horse racing, I've been probably near the forefront of trying to bring them into the future, looking at new digital ways of doing it, looking at new communities and different Gen Zs coming through, because we're a very aging demographic, and I got castigated by the powers that be when I called British horse racing. It's a bit like Radio 4. You don't get into it till you're 55. So, but we've got to start looking at how we get the new younger generation, what they're into. Fantasy is a classic one that all sports other than racing really uses now in terms of having fantasy teams. So there's playbooks out there. They've just got to choose to pick up the playbook, to be honest with you, Jerry. But Cheltenham, the problem with Cheltenham is what the money that's made at Cheltenham basically keeps about another 10 of the Jockey Club racecourses alive. And that's the problem, that if the Golden Goose is struggling, the rest of them will all pile away. So no, as a sport, we're about to go through it, as golf have been through various different ups and downs. Even though it's going through a choppy waters as we speak at the moment, there's money behind it. Whereas now, racing was one of only 2 sports in bookmaker shops when we were kids. It was, 70% racing and 30% football. Racing now is smaller than cricket on Betfair. Wow. So there you go. That just shows, how it's gone down over a period of time. So, yes, lots of work to do on the horse racing front. The stuff out on the pitch, yes, there's a very dominating factor in Willie Mullins, but equally we've had periods of time where you've had people that have dominated so well, and people moaning. We even had one trainer this week saying we should ban Irish horses running at Cheltenham and the like, which is just ridiculous. Up your game. Don't worry about anybody else's. So. We now lead into Aintree, so it's a great period. We have a sort of spring period in jump racing. We've got Cheltenham, we've got Aintree coming up the same weekend as the Masters. So I'm disappearing down to Portugal for the Grand Masters weekend, which means you play golf in the morning, you have a long lunch watching and losing a load of money on Betfair whilst Aintree's on, because we're a bit old, have a little kip. And then, of course, it's down the clubhouse, watch the Masters in the evening till about midnight. Do that for 4 days. Best 4 days going. Off you go. The Apiafi golf tour continues. But we're concentrating on the big one, which has a bit of Cheltenham form. Corrick Rambler, the horse that won the Grand National, was actually 3rd in this year's Gold Cup. And everyone's been saying it, and it went from being a 12 to 1 shot down to 5 to 1, well clear favourite, double figures, everything else. And to be honest with me, I can't have him. And the reason why I can't have him is I was there at Cheltenham, basically stood above the winning line. And as that horse came up in the last furlong, it was knackered. Now, even though the trainer, the horse runs over further, even a mile further in the Grand National, when you step up in quality, which is what he did, and a mile back in the Gold Cup, which is 3 mile 2, he was taken out of his comfort zone and he looked absolutely shattered. His head was in the air, trying to gain oxygen. And so I can't have him. I think he had too hard a race in the Gold Cup, even though the Gold Cup is a good Grand National trial. And the horse that I've gone for, I'm slightly happy that I backed him before his last win. Is a horse called I Am Maximus. Now, JP McManus has had the most unbelievable season. He was top owner at the Cheltenham Festival with 5 winners. He owns I Am Maximus. Now, the reason why, for your non-racing viewers, I Am Maximus went from 20 to 1 into 10 to 1 very, very quickly was because when the weights come out, in other words, what weight the horse carries in the race, they'd kept their card very close to their chest. And as soon as the weights came out, which was about a month ago, he ran 3 days later and won by 14 lengths, pulling a cart. So they've basically been waiting for the weights to come out. And if the race was run today and they could redo those weights, he'd be carrying probably in excess of £10 more than he's actually carrying in the Grand National. Owned by JP McManus, he's a 10 to 1 shot. I've put him in a double with DJ, which pays 373 to 1 each way. There you go. A Grand Masters each way double. And we'll all be off to go and buy a house as big as Lynn is if it comes in.
Just for the non-racing people, who trains this horse, Josh?
It's actually ridden by Jody McGarvey. It's Irish dominated, mate. So you're definitely, if you're talking about UK and Ireland or live in PGA Tour, we're going to where the form is. He's trained over in Ireland. JP bought him a couple of years ago, and they've been pretty clever with how they've got this horse handicapped. And I think you'll see a JP. It's an interesting one. He's spending quite a bit of cash. JP. I hope he's okay because he's definitely ploughing through. He's got billions to spend, but he's definitely putting his hand in his pocket here.
So anyway, so there we go. So that's the day. Have you got any tips for Aintree, Lenny?
Well,
Ladies' Day's Friday, Lenny.
Is Dusty Carpet running? That old one.
So, boys, that about finishes off. Josh, you ready to go and take Glen Eagles to its knees?
I can't wait, Jerry. Can't wait.
I'd never forget the first time I played with Josh. You know, it was he started off with down that course down. He made a 9 at the first, an 11 at the second, then 3 8s in a row and a 12, and then his game fell to pieces.
That was back in that those numbers have never been on the scorecard for years, Joshy, have they?
No, not at all, Jerry. I picked up after 3. That's puts.
How's the weather looking out the window?
Weather is all good. Today's the day. Yesterday was wet. Today's a good day. And tomorrow is, I think I'll see more snow where I am than where my wife and daughter are skiing. So, so could be an early bath tomorrow, but today very much looking forward to it.
Where are you playing tomorrow?
Back on the King's Course at Glen Eagles.
Okay, nice. So that's how the other half live, Lenny.
Yeah,
now we know. No, DJ and Josh, and so right.
I'm going after I Am Maximus now. Then I'm going all in.
Yeah,
mate.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah,
you heard it here first. Get on before Jerry posts this out because the price will smash down with all of Jerry's viewers getting on.
Right then, boys. Thanks, Lenny. Always a pleasure. Stuff. Always a pleasure. Josh.
Thank you. Enjoy Glen Eagles, Josh.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, enjoy Glen Eagles, and we'll speak to you boys soon.